I've decided to try something new, to make a video where I share some of my thoughts about the mind without yelling at you or your friends. I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. No, that's excuse me. That's real. I don't actually think it's because I'm sickened by the idea of tolerating. Anyway, but nonetheless, it happened. So, I'm going to try this new approach. I'm not going to be able to speak off the cuff, though, because then I'll lose my shit somehow. Alright, so I just sent this message to a friend who thinks that humans, by and large, are reasonable. And regardless of what he means by that, people in general, you, of course, think that you're reasonable. He thinks that he's reasonable. I know that I'm not reasonable. I know that I could be deluding myself all the time. But so here's what I said. This example will work especially if you're a person of color. Let me put it this way. You know how when someone is accused of racism or any prejudice, they'll say, "No, that kid was acting suspicious. It has nothing to do with race." And then you think, but you wouldn't have responded the same way if he were white. And they insist that they would. Well, they're not lying. They may be wrong, but they do truly believe that the reason they decided to call the cops or pull their weapon or follow him around the store was because he was behaving suspiciously. They also probably truly believe they would react the same way to a white kid acting the same way. And if it's a poor white kid who looks poor, maybe they would. But I shouldn't have just said that because that just confuses things. Anyway, they probably wouldn't though, if all other things were considered equal. Okay. Because people, I should not have interrupted myself. Let's start over. Great. Let me put it this way. You know how when someone is accused of racism or any prejudice, they'll say, "No, that kid was acting suspicious. It has nothing to do with race." And then you think, but you wouldn't have responded the same way if you were white. And they insist that they would. They're not lying. They're wrong, but they do truly believe that the reason they decided to call the cops or pull their weapon or follow him around the store was because he was behaving suspiciously. They also probably truly believe they would react the same way to a white kid acting the same way. Because people, all of us, have no idea what goes into our belief and decision-making process. But we truly believe we do. And it's not just racists. All of us interpret things a certain way because of the machinery of the mind while believing we interpreted the evidence impartially. That's why racists tell you they aren't racists. It's not because they're afraid of their cover being blown. It's because they truly don't believe they are prejudiced. The prejudiced moves made in their mind are made without them knowing. Like most activity in the mind. Only the conclusion, "This kid is up to no good," is presented to the conscious mind, which is you. And then the conscious mind rationalizes the conclusion. Imagine all the paths in a forest. Imagine you walk blindfolded and end up someplace in the forest. You have no idea how you got there. You have no idea whether you're in the right place. Someone asks you whether you're in the right place. You turn around and you see there's a path that leads to where you are. Of course, you can't see the whole path. It just looks like, oh, okay, yeah, I see something leads here. You don't know whether it actually even started where you started. You understand? That's an important piece of the metaphor, actually. So you can't see the beginning of the path. You don't know whether you followed it here. You just see, oh, yeah, here's a little something that indicates here. So someone asks you whether you're in the right place. You turn around and see there's a path that leads to where you are. You say, yeah, look, this is where the evidence takes me. But honestly, evidence isn't that easy. It could take you a lot of different places depending on which evidence you use. Also, you didn't necessarily follow the evidence to that place. You may have not followed any reasonable path. And there may have been better paths to take you to better conclusions. But still you insist that the path behind you is the one you took and the best one, and therefore you are in the right place. Look, Humans are wonderful. We just have gotten a little bit ahead of ourselves. We've become a little bit arrogant about our reasoning ability. And we've come to see ourselves as these sort of machine-like souls. We're able to weigh all these odds and all this information and come to the right conclusion, and then maybe we even fancy ourselves checking that conclusion against new information and all this stuff. But that's just not how it works. There's no research in brain science that will tell you that decision making happens the way that you think it does, or that belief founding or belief adoption happens the way that you think it does. And that's a really, really, really important lesson, okay? And I hope that you can begin to sort of understand that, because the world would be a completely different place if we understood that. If we stopped trusting ourselves so much, if we adopted some intellectual humility where we are willing to doubt ourselves and say, my brain isn't this perfectly logical machine. You're telling me I am making a mistake? Let me check that out. Certainly let me not, for instance, kill all these people because I'm so certain I'm right. Or let me not institute this policy that puts so many lives in danger because I'm certain I'm right. Let's together take a look, take an aerial view, which is what science is. Let's look at the path of the forest, right? Because one person just can't see sort of where the evidence leads. We just don't have the perspective for it, I suppose. And we just shouldn't trust our perception. So we need to get up and, anyway, okay? Good. This is the nicest I may ever be, so give me a like.